session, you have all been given orientation how to go about breaking the task into its constituent parts. Also took the initiative to discuss with all of you the network security. Now, based upon once you have carried out a task analysis, the next step in planning for instruction is writing instructional objectives. Now, you must be wondering why we need to understand the concept of instructional objectives and why we should know how to write about instructional objectives. Now, whenever we take up any task in life or otherwise, the very first question which comes to our mind is, why should I do it? And the same thing is there in the minds of the students when they are studying a particular topic and the teacher is trying to communicate on that topic. So that question is always bothering the student. Why should I learn this? So when you are clear about the instructional objective, you are actually able to give the orientation to the student what he'll be able to do. So instructional objectives primarily are simple, which deals with the changes that we intend to bring in our students at the end of instruction. Here you are seeing the figure which says that when you admit a student, you are checking the prerequisite knowledge, skills and attitude. So a student who has completed 10 plus 2, he has a repertoire of knowledge, skills and attitude, and he is joining the institute. And you are subjecting that individual to curriculum and instructional processes. And whatever you do in theory, you do in practical, the project work, the industrial training, or you take the student to field, or you assign minor projects and so on, all these are part of your instructional processes whereby you are giving certain experiences to your students. And all these experiences are aimed at developing certain knowledge, skills and attitude among the students. And thus, a student who goes out from the institute, he is having certain additional knowledge, additional skills and additional attitudes. So this is what that means. We start any teaching learning process with certain objectives in mind, and by the end of that instruction, maybe by the end of a semester or a year, or maybe at the end of the program, we are able to bring changes in the behavior of the learner in terms of knowledge, skills and attitude. And thereby we need to know what are our objectives, because I as a teacher, if I know that my student should be able to say write a program in C++, if this is the objective, then I cannot simply go and tell him how to write a program. Then the onus, the responsibility lies on the teacher that he provides adequate practice to the student so that he becomes proficient in writing programs in C++. So the methodology would be give a demonstration how a program is written, then give adequate practice to the students so that they become proficient. Now let's take another example. For example, take a case of management. Now you want that your students should be able to manage the people within the department, within the organization. If they are requiring managerial level position, they should be able to provide leadership. Now in that case, when I say if I simply teach leadership, maybe they are not able to exhibit the right kind of leadership style. But when I give them a case and tell them what kind of subordinates are there, what kind of task is there, then now you select a particular leadership style which you use in that. Maybe that will give a better understanding of the leadership style. So case study method may help me, or I give a situational test where the student has to manage a small cafeteria or maybe a library for one day in the institution, and then we see how that person delegates the work, how he shows the academic leadership, and so on. So you can either give a case study where he tries to come out with the principle, or he finds a solution to the problem, or the person is put in a situation where he tries to exhibit a particular leadership style. So if you know, when the people are going for the defense services, they are given role play exercises, they are put into situations, and then the assessment of the capabilities or the competencies is done. So we need to know how we are going to develop those capabilities which are expected of our students, and then what methods would be more appropriate to develop those competencies. So these decisions are based upon the clarity of the objectives you want to achieve at the end of instruction. So I'm going to focus on few aspects related to instructional objectives. We'll deal with why the purpose is almost clear, but what is an instructional objective? How do we define, right? And what are the characteristics of a good instructional objective? Then we'll see what are the different types of domains in which the objectives lie, and then we'll come to how to write instructional objectives. So this will be the structure of my presentation. Coming to the very first one, let me pose this question to the audience. How would you like to define, if you are familiar with the term objective, then can anybody explain what are objectives? Yes? Anyone who would like to say what are objectives?
Objective is the purpose that will be served during the presentation.
Purpose, okay. I think purpose and objective are two different aspects. Purposes can be much broader. Objectives are very specific, okay. Any other explanation you would like to put forth? Yes.
Objective is the main motive.
Okay, motive. I think now you are bringing in more terminology. Motive is not motive, or you can say intention. What change you would like to bring in, right? So let's see specifically when we say instructional objectives, they are nothing but statements. They are descriptive statements regarding what a student will be able to do at the end of a unit of instruction. And here, that means if I am teaching a topic of network security, what is expected of the learner? What capability he will possess at the end of that unit of instruction? If I try to state those in terms of statements, that is what is referred to as instructional objective. There are a number of examples from varied fields which I have tried to write down, but I am just picking up network security, the topic which our colleague has taken up. So here she has taken up introduction, and we said through introduction you are building the rationale why you want to learn about network security. What is the rationale for learning network security? Now, if as a teacher I am going to explain the rationale, what a student is expected to do. Yes, if you are building the rationale, then what a student will be able to do. जी, आप किसी चीज का रैशनल बता रहे हो तो स्टूडेंट क्या कर पाएगा? What a student is expected to do? Yes. Come on. Yes. चलो मैं एक सिंपल लेती हूँ. आपने कहा नेटवर्क सिक्योरिटी कॉन्सेप्ट, एंड अंडर द कॉन्सेप्ट we included two things, that is definition and example. Now if I give a definition of certain terminologies, technical terminologies to the student, what exactly is expected of the student? जी. हाँ जी. अगर आप टेक्निकल टर्म्स को डिफाइन कर रहे हैं तो स्टूडेंट क्या कर पाएगा? प्लीज आंसर द क्वेश्चन.
While describing a technical term, we have to correlate with that term to his daily, daily life example, so that he can understand that.
Okay, so that means you are expecting that somebody will understand that, and understanding is evident when a person is able to explain the technical term in his own words, or the person is able to give example of that technical terminology. So what a student is expected to do is, first he may be able to simply repeat the definition of network security. Second, maybe he is able to explain the term network security in his own words. Then third, maybe he is able to give us example of network security. So you are teaching a particular content, and once that content has been learned, and a student will be able to either define or explain or give examples of that particular technical terminology. So here you can see that what capability a student would exhibit at the end of unit of instruction. If that is written, then it is referred to as instructional objective. Say for example, I am dealing with the term efficiency, and I only give a definition. If I only define, I am expecting that student will be able to define efficiency. If I am giving the definition of programming, the student will be able to define programming. Or when I am dealing with two different types of engine, the purpose is that my student will be able to differentiate between diesel and petrol engine, or he'll be able to compare diesel engine with the petrol engine. Then you see similarly an example from civil engineering. Once you are dealing with types of foundation, again it is that a student will be able to differentiate between deep and shallow foundation. From the computer science, when we are dealing with database management and you are dealing with stack and array, so a student is expected to learn the differences between stack and array. So the instructional objective is student will be able to differentiate between stack and array. Then if we go a little higher and we expect that our student will be able to write a program in C++, that capability includes ability to analyze. So if a written program is given to the student, then he is able to identify the mistakes made by the writer in the program written in C++. This is nothing but ability to analyze. Then likewise, higher level ability is in civil. I have taken, you can also consider write a program in C++. That is where you want the student to create something. In civil engineering, I have taken an example from design a staircase for 3-story building, residential building. So if person has acquired knowledge in civil, then he should be able to design a staircase. Likewise, in mechanical, a person is able to design an engine for the sports utility vehicle of given specification. These are some examples which are given If you try to analyze these examples, you will see that define, compare, differentiate, identify, design, these are nothing but action verbs. In English, you use the terminology activity verb, but while you write instructional objective, these are referred to as action verbs. And each objective is specific. It is not including more than one aspect. It only deals with one aspect. So if I am talking about definition, it is only of efficiency. I am not saying define efficiency and effectiveness. If I am dealing with efficiency, effectiveness, then there would be either one objective which will say differentiate between efficiency and effectiveness, or there would be two objectives, define efficiency, another would be define effectiveness. So when you are writing objectives, they are very specific. They only deal with minor element, a constituent element of the topic. Then third thing you will see, all these objectives have been written in terms of student behavior. We don't say that objective is in terms of what a teacher wants to do or what a teacher wants to develop. I don't say that a teacher wants to develop the capability among the students to define efficiency. No, I am saying a student will be able to define efficiency. So, student, every objective is written in terms of student behavior rather than the teacher behavior. Normally, I say, no, I want to develop knowledge, I want to develop skills. That is teacher objective. These are not instructional objectives. So, instructional objectives are written in terms of student behavior. And these objectives are time framed. You would like to achieve these objectives in specified period of time. That's why it is written at the end of a unit of instruction. That means once the topic has been dealt, the student will be able to exhibit the desired behavior. So in nutshell, we can say any good objective has certain characteristics, and these characteristics are, they are always stated in terms of student behavior. They start with an action verb. Now when I say action verb, you have seen define one, compare another, differentiate another, design another, or I can use other action verbs like state, explain, analyze, evaluate, appraise, or you can say calculate. All these are examples of action verbs. So depending upon what type of capability you would like to assess, you will use an appropriate action verb. Then instructional objectives, they all are measurable and observable. Once the behavior which is observable can be measured. Now when I say define, a student can either give a definition orally, I can pose a question in the class and make sure that a student has developed that capability, or I can give a written task to the student where he define efficiency. So orally or in written form, the student can give me the definition of efficiency, and that definition can be compared with standard definition. Thus, the behavior becomes observable and measurable. I cannot say student has understood the concept of efficiency. Now, when I say understood the concept of efficiency, this is intrinsic behavior of the individual. But when I am sure that he has understood the concept, when he defines, when he gives example, when he can compare that particular term with another terminology. So you need to have specific objectives which are observable and measurable. Then all these objectives fulfill the criteria of being realistic. When I say realistic, that means they are achievable. You can achieve these objectives within a specified period of time. So the next characteristic is all objectives are time framed. Either you say at the end of unit of instruction or at the end of the program, or we say at the end of the course. If you are going for accreditation, then you will be using the terminology program education objectives, program objectives, and course outcomes. Now, this is different terminology which is used. Program education objectives are what a student will be able to do after 4 or 5 years of graduation. POs are what a student will be able to do after completion of the program in electronics and communication engineering. And when it comes to the course outcome, that refers to what a student will be able to do after completion of a particular course, that is a subject, right? So here we are talking in terms of a particular subject and then a particular topic. So we are writing instructional objectives. Objectives fall in 3 different domains. One is cognitive domain, that means anything which is related to acquisition of information, that is related to your brain, is cognitive. Anything which has to do with acquisition of skills fall in the domain of psychomotor, that is skill acquisition. Affective domain deals with attitudes, values, and behavior. Now, this classification was originally given by Bloom in 1950, and recently in 1990, Anderson has revisited the taxonomy and has given a revised taxonomy of objectives in cognitive domain. So we'll see, originally when Bloom gave the taxonomy, I hope it is readable.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now when the original classification was given by Bloom, he classified objectives in cognitive domain to 6 levels. And he started with the lowest level of learning was the knowledge, then comprehension, then application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Now, Anderson has tried to reclassify these by using the verbs remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Now, let's deal with what do we understand by remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, and what are the various verbs which can be used to write objectives at each level. So coming up with the very first one, remembering. Now think, remembering simply means rote memorization. All those aspects of the subject which require rote memorization on the part of the student would fall in the category of remembering. And here, when you say list 3 advantages of network security, now the student doesn't need any understanding. He can mug up, he can memorize, rote memorization of the subject. He can repeat those 3 advantages when a question is posed in the classroom or a question is given in the examination. So once the student has to simply enter into rote memorization rather than understanding of the subject, then those objectives fall at the level of remembering. And here I have given you, say, the word which can be used, the verb. List advantages, 3 advantages of network security. Likewise, list advantages of 3 advantages of DC motor over AC motor. So the person is going to only list those advantages. Then name 3 equipments which are used in the computer hardware. So you are asking the person simply to write the names of 3 equipments which are used as hardware in computer science. So, or I say, name any 2 languages which can be used to write programs. So once you say name any 2 languages, he simply writes the name of 2 languages. Then if I say enlist, now here I say enlist the steps which are followed in establishing a network with another computer. So you are to give the steps which are used in. So you are enlisting step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So again, this requires rote memorization. Then comes state. Every subject consists of number of rules or principles. So if you want that your student should be able to state Charles' law or Lenz's law or Coulomb's law, then you say state, or I say state laws of thermodynamics. So the person is simply going to repeat the laws as they have been stated. So he is not bringing any variation or adding any words to that. So even this objective is at the remembering level. Then you are dealing with definition of terms. So if you say define stack, define array, define instruction, define efficiency, define software, all these are nothing but objectives at the remembering level. Then locate. Now I say, I give a map of India and I say locate New Delhi on the map of India or on Indian map. So the person is simply putting where the New Delhi is. So even that can be rote memory. Or I say locate resistance in the given circuit diagram. So the person is able to identify the symbol of resistance and he say this is the resistance. So here he is simply locating, and if he remembers the name of the various devices which are used in a circuit diagram, he can, or he remembers the symbol of resistance, he'll be able to locate resistance in a given circuit diagram. Then identify. So I say identify the induction motor in the given diagram. So the person, or if I have given different machines and equipments and I say identify induction motor, the person can simply identify that. It is only also a rote memorization on the part of the learner, because if he has remembered the name of that machine and he is able to identify that, that means he has the objective at the remembering level. Then repeat. Now say for example, I am repeating that voltage is directly proportional to, or V is directly proportional to I, and the student repeats that. He is simply repeating, I asked, okay, state Ohm's law. So he is repeating in the class the statement of the law. Again, that is objective at remembering level. Reproduce. Now when I say reproduce the 3 elements of the computer, and he says it is input device, output device and the process device. So CPU input and output devices, he is simply reproducing that. It is also objective at the remembering level. So any objective which only tells the rote memorization on the part of the learner, they are referred to instructional objectives at the remembering level. Any question if the audience has at this point?
No, ma'am.
Can I continue?
Yes,
If,
ma'am. Yes.
okay. Next level of objectives is understanding. Now, many of you must be remembering that when we were in schools, we were given a paragraph. A paragraph was to be read, and then the questions were to be solved. Now, that required understanding. Now, understanding is a capability which allows the student to explain certain terminologies, certain concepts in his own words. A person is able to interpret the given diagram, interpret the data. The person has the capability to give examples, and the person is able to paraphrase, infer, classify, compare, and explain. Now, these are the capabilities when the person has understood certain concepts, certain principles, certain theories which are part of the subject. So when the person is able to do all this, we say these are the objectives at the understanding level, and see what are the verbs which can be used. Now, when I say define efficiency is one, and I say explain the term efficiency, do you think there is a difference in the two? When I say define efficiency and I say explain the term efficiency, do you think there are differences in these two statements, or are they same?
There is a difference, ma'am. If I'm saying a student to define, will only give the definition in
Fine.
his, and when I'm saying explain the term, then he will add relevant examples and properties related to that term.
Excellent. I think this is what we need to understand, that if I expect my student to explain in his own words, give examples, then the objective will be at the understanding level. And if I only expect that a student will be able to reproduce, restate, name, state, define, then the objective is at the remembering level. So explain is one action verb which can be used to write objective at the understanding level. Then comes give examples. Now, for example, I say give examples of two vehicles which use IC engines, or maybe two machines which make use of IC engines. So the person can name those two and give examples. हो गया interpret. Now say for example I am showing a graph between stress and strain. Now I say interpret the given graph. So the student is expected to interpret any given graph which shows relationship between two or more than two variables. So even if that capability is developed, the objective will be at the understanding level. Or I say derive relationship between stress and strain, or I say derive relationship between voltage and current. Now when I say somebody has the capability to derive the relationship, that means he has already understood the concept of voltage, the person has understood the concept of current, and the person has understood the concept of proportionality, and he has also understood the relationship between voltage and current. So even this capability is indicating an objective at the understanding level. And once we are dealing with, say, different terms, or we are using different concepts, then the person, why we teach different types of concepts? Because we want the student to understand the differences between those two concepts. Now, when you're dealing with, say, I was taking an example of, say, the student must be very clear of what is a program, what is an instruction, what are the rules, right? If he can differentiate between or among these three terms, that means he has understood the concept of programming, he has understood the concept of instruction, and he has understood the concept of a rule. Or when I say different models of software development, so if the person can compare two models of software development, that means he has the thorough understanding of both these models, only then he can compare. So it is higher level ability. That means it requires understanding on the part of the students. Then compare के साथ you can use an alternate term, that is differentiate between the two models of software development. Then classify. Now say for example, I give them two sets of figures. One set of figure combines squares and rectangles. So I say simple one. I say classify the figures into squares and rectangles. So the figure is able to segregate the figures. A small child, even the capability where he has actually understood the concept of a square and rectangle. Now I can say, okay, you place different objects which are using AC motor or DC motor. So if the person can classify the objects on the basis of the motor which has been used, AC motor or DC motor, that means he has understood the concept of AC motor and DC motor. So see, number of action verbs can be used to write objectives at the understanding level. The next level is applying. Whatever knowledge we are trying to develop among our students, what is expected of them is that they'll be able to apply the learned knowledge in a new situation. And here you can see that, for example, you can say once you are using Newton's law of motion. Now that law is applicable in day-to-day life, in the industry. And you say apply Newton's law of third law of motion or second law of motion to solve the given problem. So that is where the application of the law would be there. Or I say I am putting my hand on the wall. Let me know how much force is exerted by the hand if the wall is exerting this force on the hand, or hand is exerting this force, what force is exerted on my hand by the wall. Now here it is nothing by a simple application of Newton's law. If I take an example of, if you are going to use the principle of siphoning, so you are using that principle. If you have to withdraw water from a height to a lower level, you are using that principle. So if a person is able to do that task by applying that principle, that means he has the ability to apply the learnt rule. Now, for example, here you find compute, calculate. One thing is a simple learning of a rule. If you change the data, the student is able to apply the rule. That is not application. That is simply understanding. For example, if I say, I let you know that the area of a room is length into breadth. Now I change the dimension of the room. I say it is 60 by 40 centimeters or 60 by 40 feet, or so calculate the area, or 60 by 40 meters. So calculate the area, and next time I give 80 into 40 feet or 80 into 40 meters. So the person is applying the same rule. It is not applying. It is understanding which he has developed. But yes, you now take the person and you say you have to earmark a boundary and you need to calculate the area, carpet area for a given specification. Now he is trying to apply the rule of how to calculate an area of a square or a rectangular, or maybe he has to apply more than one rule. So that would be application. So in the class, maybe you are giving examples, say subtract 5 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. Now this is understanding is developed how to go about subtracting. But when the student actually go to the market, make certain purchases, come back with the balance, and he is able to calculate what will be the balance, then it is applying the learned rule in a new situation. Or as I have been giving example of that, while you are traveling by a train and there is another train and which is standing still, but when one train starts moving, it appears that both the trains are moving. So which rule of physics is applicable here? Yes?
Any idea? Any idea?
Motion parallax. Okay. So this is, you can understand, that means you are applying what you have learned in the classroom. So this is application. Then you are able to say, for example, you have now learned how to rotate a lever in an anti-clockwise direction or clockwise direction. If you are able to use that, again it is application of the rule. Then comes ability to analyze, that is analyzing. Next higher level of learning, after a person has remembered certain terms, understood certain concepts and principles, then he is able to apply certain concepts and rules, comes the ability to analyze. Analyzing means, as Dr. Snell might have explained to you in topic analysis, it is breaking down the whole into its constituent parts. That means, now say for example, you are giving a description of an industry and you are trying to bring out why there was a machine breakdown. And the person comes out with the reason, after reading that case, he comes out with the reasons that led to breakdown of the machinery in the industry, is that he has the ability to analyze. Now, likewise in management, when we give cases and they require ability to analyze. For example, you are giving or narrating a scenario where you had used a formal channel of communication, but at the end of that, the communication breakdown took place. And you are now asking the person to analyze the reasons or analyze the factors that led to communication breakdown in that situation. This is nothing but ability to analyze. So you can use the word analyze. Analyze the reason, analyze the factors, analyze the important properties or analyze the important features of an organization which contributes to its efficiency. They are nothing but the ability to analyze. Likewise, when I say I give you a program which has been written by a student and I say locate the mistakes in the program written by a student. So if you are able to locate, that means you have the ability to analyze. Find out the reason or find out the factor that led to this, again is analysis. You can also use explained here. Explain the factors that contribute to efficiency of a particular organization, or explain the factors related to the machine which help in increasing the efficiency of that machine. So you are giving description of that machine, the various parts and so on, and then you are asking the student to explain the factors that led to enhancing the efficiency of that machine, is ability to analyze. Examine If you are given a situation and you say examine, now say for example, I bring you to NITTTR and I say the work culture of this organization is different from other organizations. Critically examine NITTTR and identify the factors that contribute to work culture of this organization. This is nothing but ability to analyze. Then investigate. If somebody takes an investigation into the reasons or does the investigation to find certain facts, evidences, again that is ability to analyze. Then criticize, I said, or put a critique on. If you are able to put a critique on the existing system of performance appraisal, this is higher level ability this is ability to evaluate, but it also has the capability to analyze. Now here, the next higher level ability of learning or instructional objective is ability to evaluate. And here, now when we are dealing with say two methods, two processes, two motors, two machines, two languages to write programs, two ways of developing software development, all these methods which we teach, ultimately a student is expected to select the most appropriate method, technique or procedure. So that is where we talk in terms of ability to evaluate. And here, say when I say judge the adequacy of performance appraisal system followed in technical institution, I'm saying at the end of instruction, the student will be able to judge the adequacy of performance appraisal system in vogue in technical institutions is nothing but an objective at the evaluation level. Or I say evaluate. I give you one particular program. Now I say evaluate the effectiveness of this program in meeting the customer's requirement. Now you have to go to a customer requirement and see that customer wanted that the program should give you these outputs or these results. Whether the program is able to meet the customer requirement, you are trying to evaluate. Determine the worth of a program in terms of customer requirement. Appraise. Appraisal word can also be used instead of evaluation or judging. So determine, as I said, determine the relevance of supercomputers in today's context. If somebody is going to do that, that means he is trying to evaluate the relevance of supercomputers in today's context. Measure. Now, it is in terms of quantitative. When you say measure efficiency or measure effectiveness, again, you are trying to base your decisions on the basis of quantitative measurement of a particular object. Prioritize. Say, for example, there are 10 teachers who are teaching. So I say, ask the student at the end of the instruction, you will be able to rate the teaching effectiveness of your teachers who are teaching 5 subjects to you. So if he is able to do that, rate and order them in order of their teaching effectiveness by giving 1 to who is most effective and 10 to the person who is least effective. So this is nothing but your prioritizing. Or you have identified number of issues related to technical education and you are able to prioritize which issue should be addressed at the first place, and you say prioritize the issues related to technical education in order of their relevance in today's context. That itself could be an ability to evaluate. Justify. This is another term which can be used to write objective at evaluation level. Justify. That means justify the use of 0.5 क्या करेंगे वोल्टेज और रेजिस्टेंस और कुछ भी ले लो सो यू कैन हाँ जी
whatever you are using that concept you have to justify that.
Justify. हाँ जी गुरप्रीत जी दोबारा बोलो.
It means that in whatsoever constant you have context you have used something you have to justify that.
Okay. So as we say, justify the use of say petrol engine in a particular vehicle. So you need to justify why you preferred petrol engine over diesel engine for a particular vehicle. Argue. Once you put an argument in favor or against, that means you have evaluated the pros and cons of that particular aspect. Defend your argument. Even defending your argument would be involve an element of evaluation. And if you are able to conclude something, even that involves an element of evaluation. So after the analysis comes the ability to evaluate. And evaluating would involve determining the worth and value of certain thing. Then comes the objectives at the creating level. Now, whatever theory we are teaching to our students, the highest, most ability which we want to develop among them is to create something, to design something. That may be in terms of designing a product, designing or giving an idea or giving a technique or giving a method or way of doing something. And here you see the verbs which can be used. When I say design a layout for hardware laboratory to be set up in the institution. So the person is giving a layout of the hardware lab which you would like to have in your institution. So design, or I say design an architecture for किस चीज का आर्किटेक्चर बनाना है कंप्यूटर साइंस.
Maybe the computer system, the component of hardware and how the hardware components are interlinked.
Fine. So when you say, thank you so much, design an architecture for a computer system, that would itself would be ability to create. Then construct. Now when you say construct, what is to be constructed? You can construct a product.
We can say that a particular Boolean expression construct the logic diagram.
Okay, construct a logic diagram or plan. Plan a layout. As I said, design a layout. You can use a plan a layout, or you can say prepare a strategic plan for the institution to emerge as a center of excellence in teaching learning. So if somebody is able to give you a strategic plan, that means he is able to apply whatever knowledge he or she has acquired in the course on strategic planning. Then write. As I said, write a program or write instructions or write the evaluation report for an institution. This is nothing but ability to create. Likewise, compose, assemble, organize, invent, prepare, develop, originate, generate. These are other variations in the action verbs which can be used to write objectives at the creating level. So in nutshell, I would say that once we are talking of objectives in cognitive domain, they can be written at 6 different levels. If I just go back and show you that these 6 levels are remembering, which requires recall of information, understanding, that is explaining ideas or concepts in one's own words, and the ability to interpret, summarize, paraphrase, classify, explain is expected of the student. Then comes the applying. Applying involves applying of the concepts, rules in new situation. Once the student has the ability to apply the learned rules in classroom to the real life situation or the world of work, those objectives are at the applying level. Then comes analyzing. Analyzing is breaking down the whole into its constituent parts. So when a person is able to identify, explain, locate the reasons, factors contributing to certain phenomena, this is nothing but ability to analyze. And then comes ability to determine the worth of certain techniques, methods, procedures, etc. And this is where the student is able to determine the worth of or merit of certain things. This is where the person has the ability to judge, appraise, evaluate, appraise, evaluate, put a critique on something, that is ability to evaluate. Then the highest level of ability which can be developed falls in the category of creating, where person is able to design, write, construct, plan, produce or invent something. Invent an idea, invent a technique, invent a method, invent a program. These are all capabilities which comes under the level of creating. So you can write objectives at 6 levels when it is a case of taking up a topic, and you can write objectives. Now just give you example of, before I go to the psychomotor, and I think I'll leave that. Uh, there are two approaches to writing objectives. One is the Gronland's approach, another is the Mager's approach for writing instructional objectives. According to Gronland, objectives are written at 2 levels: general objective, then specific objective. General objective is at the topic level. Now when you say network security, then general objective which I find from the various parts which you are going to cover is understand the concept, advantages and disadvantages of network security. This is one general objective. Another general objective for this topic is understand the principles of network security. Now when I'm talking about writing general objectives are written using mainly three verbs, which include understand, know, and appreciate. These are the 3 terms which are used to write general objective. Now because when I say understand, the connotation would vary from one teacher to another. So these general objectives need to be broken down into specific objectives. So for each general objective, a teacher is required to write at least 2 to 3 specific objectives. But both general objective and specific objectives are written in terms of students' behavior. And they all start with action verb, and they are time framed, they are specific. This is one approach. I'm leaving Mager's approach right now. Here you see, I have taken one topic, introduction to systems. Now when I say I'm going to deal with introduction to system, in one particular class, I'm only going to cover the concept of system and the types of system. And when I say types of system, I'm going to differentiate between open and closed, the static and dynamic system, and I'm going to clarify the concepts of various types of systems. Now here, the general objective that at the end of unit of instruction, the student will be able to understand the concept and types of systems. This is the general objective. At the end of the topic, the student will be having the understanding of concept and types of system. And now I try to break down this general objective into specific objectives. And here you see I have written at the end of unit of instruction. That clause is not written, but it is always there in the mind of the teacher, because you are writing instructional objective in terms of students' behavior. So student will be able to explain system. I have not used define system. Define is at the remembering level, explain is at the understanding level. And then I have written differentiate between open and closed system. That is, student has the knowledge of open system, closed system. Now the student can compare the two systems. So I am using the verb differentiate between open and closed system. Then you see I've used the word differentiate between static and dynamic system. And then I've written give examples of open and closed system, give examples of static and dynamic system. Now this particular topic, the objectives have been restricted to understanding level. It doesn't require any application. I have not gone in for design a system. When I say design a system for a given organization, that becomes a ability to create. That is an objective at the creating level. Or I could say analyze NITTR as an organization and identify the good and bad elements in the system. Now here when I say this, that means I am asking the person to analyze, and this is ability to analyze, an objective at the analysis level. Okay? Now taken another example, I have taken up DC machines, and here again you will see that I am dealing with construction and applications of DC machines. Now if I am teaching this, then what are my specific objectives and what is my general objective? General objective is only one. Student will be able to understand the construction and application of DC machines. And this has further been broken down into specific objectives. When I talk about construction, that means anybody who has the understanding of a construction of a machine means he or she has the knowledge of various parts of the machine. So here you see label the parts of a DC machine. So if any figure is given to the person, he is able to label the various parts of a DC machine. Next one is if he knows the name of the various parts, which is at remembering level. Explain the function of various parts of DC machine. Now when I say explain, that means the person has understood the functions of various parts of. So the objective is at the understanding level. Third objective you see is write winding scheme for the armature winding. Now if I am using write winding scheme, this is not application right now. This is only understanding. There is a set procedure of writing the winding scheme for armature winding. So the person is simply enumerating and explaining the steps. Then explain the characteristics of different types of DC machines. S is missing here. You can put different types of DC machines. So again, this is understanding of the characteristics. Explain methods for speed control of DC machine. Again, this is objective at the understanding level. Now here, You can see further it goes to explain the effect of armature reaction in a DC machine. So again, understanding, define commutation at the remembering level, describe methods for determining efficiency of a DC without actual loading of the machine is again understanding. Then list the maintenance task of a DC machine is at the remembering level. So our teacher needs to first write down general objective, then break down the general objective. Let me take one example from data communication and computer network. So here you see, depending upon the breadth and scope which you are going to cover, you can have one general objective or you can have 2 to 3 general objectives. Here you find for this particular topic, there are 2 general objectives. Understand data communication system and its components. Understand basic computer network technology. And you see beneath that, for the first general objective, enlist the basic elements of data communication. So at the end of the unit of instruction, student will be able to enlist the basic elements of data communication. Differentiate among 3 data transmission modes, that is simplex, half duplex and full duplex. Then third is explain 3 different types of data transmission speeds. And you are also dealing with advantages and disadvantages. So state advantages and disadvantages of various types of transmission media. Distinguish between synchronous and asynchronous or asynchronous transmission. Compare the relations and so on. So each constituent element of the topic, you are at least going to write at least 1 to 2 specific objectives for that unit, element of unit. Now let me just give you one example of the psychomotor domain, because as a teacher you are not only dealing with topics in theory, but you are also going to deal with the practical component. And in the psychomotor domain, Krathwohl has given the various levels of learning. Whenever a skill is to be acquired, the lowest level of learning is imitation. Imitation means you simply repeat what is being done by the expert. Say a teacher is giving a demonstration, the student is just imitating the demonstration of the teacher, or the student is giving a rule and that is being followed. That is simple imitation of what a teacher is telling. So whenever we have to learn a skill, somebody who is proficient in performing that task gives a demonstration and we try to simply copy that. Let me give you an example. Say you are going to the electronics or computer lab and you are setting an experiment. So once you are setting an experiment, you are giving a demonstration and students simply follow the steps which are exhibited by the instructor or the teacher. Now here, say I'm just taking one example. Say I go to the computer lab. Now I say you have to create a PowerPoint presentation on the computer. This is a lab book which is given because this is skill. So you say, okay, go to the PowerPoint, open kar liya, open the PowerPoint, then you go PowerPoint, you say file, click on file, create a new PowerPoint. So you click that, then you save as, go to the save as, click save as, then you give a name to your PowerPoint presentation and save as. Now you add the title. So you say title, for you select a layout, whether it is going to be only the title or you're going to have the heading and subheadings, or you are going to have the simple layout, blank layout where you would like to place certain pictures, certain images, or you want to create a diagram. So you select a layout, then you start working on that layout and how you go on adding to the. So Once you say do this, you do, you show, then students do the same thing, the simple imitation. And if I have to learn driving a car, again, an expert driver sits besides me. He does that, how to insert the key, how to rotate the key, how to press the lever, how to accelerate, how to de-accelerate. He shows me, and I simply follow that. The process starts with imitation. Once I do the imitation and the person is satisfied that I can follow, then manipulation, a stage comes where the novice is asked to handle the machinery or equipment on his own. So what the expert does, he says, okay, now you come to the computer, you click file and you create a PowerPoint presentation. So while I do that, I make a lot of mistakes initially. And manipulation is a stage where you are trying to build the confidence and you are trying to provide the feedback. And then comes a stage with practice, that is precision. The accuracy creeps in. I am able to open a file, I am able to select a layout, but if I have to create a whole PowerPoint, maybe somewhere I am still making mistake. I am not able to coordinate. And then comes a stage with lot of practice, that is articulation, where if I want to change the font size, I want to change the color of the background, I want to change the color of the alphabets, I can very conveniently, efficiently do all this. That is a stage called articulation. And last stage in skill learning is naturalization. Naturalization means I develop an ability to innovate, design something new, create something new. Now you have taught me PowerPoint presentation, but I now add a new feature to the PowerPoint presentations. That would be creation. So if I am able to innovate with the software which is available and I create something new, that is ability to innovate. So objectives in psychomotor domain can be written at 5 levels, but we don't go by writing objectives at imitation, manipulation and so on. So what we do? What we do is we try to take up the practical example. Say I've taken up a lab experiment, connect the computer in local area network. Now this is a lab experiment. So the procedural steps are there to achieve the objective. A student will be able to connect the computer in local area network, that is my objective, and to achieve this particular objective, these are the specific objectives. Specific objectives in case of psychomotor skills are the procedural steps which are to be followed to achieve the objective. So what we need to do is log on to the host computer as administrator. Second step is click start and then click control panel. L is missing here. Third one is click network and internet connections. Then click network connections. Then right click the connection that you use to connect to the internet. Then click properties. Click the advanced tab. Under internet connection sharing, select the allow other network users to connect through this computer's internet connection checkbox. So these are nothing but the procedural steps which are followed to establish a network. But if you are sharing a dial-up internet connection, select the establish a dial-up connection wherever computer on my network attempts to access the. So this everybody has to do all this. So once you write select, select is also action verb, click is action verb, and if you have seen log on, login is a performance activity which requires you to perform certain tasks. And if you go to Then the second part of this would be certain things you have to do on the client computer. So log on to the client computer as administrator, click start, go to the, click the control panel, then click network internet connections, then out of that click network connections, then right click local area connection and then click properties, then click the general tab, click TCP, then click obtain IP address automatically IP and then properties. And in the local area connection properties, click OK, then quit the control panel. Everywhere L is missing, so pardon me for that. Now this is from where I picked up. This is GGIU, Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University. They have beautiful laboratory manuals which are available online, and they have given the whole process which needs to be followed. So I just went to the internet and just I can't copy that, so I just typed that material courtesy GGIU New Delhi. So what I've done is taken up the experiment, written the objective of that experiment, that is student will be able to connect the computer in local area network. I've written down the procedural steps and each step becomes a specific objective. So student must have the ability to perform all the procedural steps. If he does that, he is able to achieve the overall objective of a practical class. I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am. It is actually our domain.
Hanji?
It is of our domain, so we do it.
Okay. So it is okay. I hope it is clear. And now people will be able to do the task. Now, the third thing which I wanted to just deal with is, in addition to developing knowledge and skills, we also want to bring changes in student behavior. So some of the objectives we try to achieve in classroom or through lab activities, or maybe through other experiences which we provide to our students. And here you see obey rule is one example. So if I write observe safety precautions in the lab, hardware lab of the computer science, that is very specific, and that objective I would like to achieve when I am taking my students to hardware lab. So I expect them that they'll observe safety precautions there. Attend classes regularly. Now this is maybe a change. A student is motivated enough to attend classes regularly. This is an objective in the affective domain. Likewise, maintain punctuality. He may be attending the classes, but he's not coming on time. So I expect if the class starts at 9, he's or she is there at 9. So maintain punctuality. Then cooperates with others. This is very important. When we give group work, we give project work in teams. So the people have to cooperate with each other. So whether they have that kind of behavior or not, whether they exhibit that desired behavior or not, exhibit honesty, respect others. So these are few examples of objectives in affective domain, and anything which has to do with attitudes, behavioral change would come under the affective domain. So as a teacher, when you're for the lab work, one is you are writing general objective, you are writing the specific objective, but you can also think of having some behavioral objective, because the purpose of taking the students to the lab and to the classes is also to achieve objectives in affective domain. So at the end, I would say if you write instructional objective, these will help you as a teacher to monitor your progress in the class. Say for example, I have a class of 1 hour. I had gone with 5 objectives, specific objectives in mind. But when I see half of the time is over, I'm still at second objective. Now this gives me a signal that I'm spending lot of time on first 2 objective. I need to hurry up to cover the remaining 3. Now, in our regular classrooms, we have a flexibility where we can, if something is left, I can take it or cover it in the next class. But make it a habit that if you have 1 hour class, you go with pre-planned lesson plan that you are going to cover this much in today's class. Normally you cover maybe some days when students are not able to keep pace, students are not able to understand, you need to give background, you need to give more examples, maybe there is little offshoot of time, but otherwise try to stick to your planning and try to achieve objectives within the specified period of time. फिर क्या होगा, your speed of covering the dealing with students and covering the syllabus will not be a problem. You'll be able to give the allocated time to your topics. They also help students to monitor their progress. अगर उनको ये पहले पता है कि at the end of unit of instruction they'll be able to do this. So when they are doing the self-study, they pose questions related to those objectives. Now they say, teacher expects that I'll be able to compute a higher order differential equation or solve higher order differential equation. So they pick up two numericals, they try to solve that, and if they are able to do that, then they are satisfied. Okay, I'll be able to solve higher order differential equation. So this is providing a feedback to the student himself, and student if is not able to do that, then he can study again and then come back and assess his performance. They also help them to organize the study material. Once you have said, okay, these are my objectives, you have indirectly stated in the class. Now student, while he is taking notes, so he is reminded of, the teacher said concept, there's types. So he is trying to organize the learning material under those headings. And another you will see serves as a basis for the selection of instructional methods, media and material. So this is the advantage of writing objectives, because this will give a clue to the teacher what method or media or what kind of evaluation technique will be more appropriate to achieve the objective. As I said, if you are actually creating a network, that means a lot of practice needs to be given to the student to create local area network. Then determine the appropriate ways to evaluate the learning. So even the evaluation technique. So wherever I said you have the practical work and you need rubrics for practical work. So that is how method, media, evaluation technique selection is linked to the objectives. So your objective defines whether written test would be more appropriate, performance test would be more appropriate, or oral questioning in the class will suffice. So accordingly you can select the method, media and evaluation techniques. So friends, if there is any question, you are welcome. Otherwise I have to give a task to you.